definitely contributes to communication and interpersonal dynamics. Obviously what we deal with here is sometimes a little bit beyond that. So looking at that overlap with mental health, people struggling with anxiety, depression, ADHD, all of these different things definitely play a role in it. You know, there's that environmental component, which we kind of talked a little bit about. There's the biological component, which comes into play, and then there's so many different factors of, you know, skill sets, trauma, life experience that definitely has a major role. So a lot of people will come in trying to figure out, you know, why did something happen, or, you know, how do I deal with this? And trying to tackle that how, why, and also give some skills is super important. And I think the emotion regulation with the bodywork stuff overlaps super well with what we do clinically in teaching some of those other skills.
I know too, when I do some movement with the young kids, we play games, we do mindfulness stuff, we do breathing activities, so we give them lots of different, you know, tools to have in their pockets so that they can pull stuff out when they need to help self-regulate a little bit, and that movement is a big piece of it.
Yes.
You know, when we're upset and sometimes having, you know, difficulty self-regulating, some loud music and movement is all that we need as adults, and same thing for kiddos. If we can just let it go and, you know, help them self-regulate and teach them different skills, movement is a big piece of that, I think.
Well, and that is one nowadays, especially, that you do have to supplement sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Since there are so many other options for the newer generation of kids, right? It doesn't come as naturally or as organically as maybe it always did,
Yes.
right? So when you see, you know, some of the things like the kids yoga, the body work, the mindfulness, the meditation, right? It's like even more important, I would say now, than it was, because we're working off a deficit, right? And it's creating and teaching a set of skills that we may take for granted or have learned inherently, right? But they may have not and may just be discovering, right? As a coping skill, as a healing modality, as a form of expression or outlet for emotion.
Right.
You know, all these different, you know, benefits that come from, you know, those different things that we may take for granted, right?
Yeah.
But this generation is different.
It's different.
As every generation that
Right.
comes up is different than the last.
It's different, and the parenting styles change. They've changed so
Have to.
drastically, you know, from where my grandparents were to how I parented to how my daughter was parenting. It's all different, and there's different, you know, ideas on how it should be.
Well,
So
going back
supporting
to
them.
that technology piece before, I think everything has a benefit, but it can also have hindrance.
Yes.
So when it comes to the amount of resources available,
Mhm.
it is overwhelming. I mean, I have parents that will come and say, I don't know what to do, not because I haven't been
Right.
provided options, but how am I supposed to know which one's the right one for my kid? What am I supposed to be doing for myself?
Mhm.
No matter what I do, I'm always being told by somebody or something that I'm doing the wrong thing.
Yes.
You know, and it's not a one size fits all, and that's what I really
It's all
try to
trial-
talk to people about.
It's all
you
trial
know.
and error.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and like the games and the movement, we take for granted, like you said, so much of what that provides. The communication, being able to practice
Right.
some of those communication skills.
Follow directions.
As kids, you know, that conflict resolution, if you're playing on the playground and you don't have, you know, parents there continuously monitoring what's going on, you have to figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
Is it always the best way? No.
No,
But
not
it's
always.
still good practice.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the point. You have to figure it out. So it's not going to be the best way.
Right.
But I feel like nowadays the expectation is we hit it the best way the first time, right? No
Yes.
trial and error, no messiness, no ugliness, no failure, you know, just everything clean right off the bat.
Mhm.
Which just isn't unrealistic.
It's
It's
unrealistic.
not a realistic expectation to set.
Yeah.
And I think having that expectation, and like you said earlier, from the social media, from the ability to plan what you're going to say and rewrite it 7 times before you put it out there, I feel like we have this inflated expectation around the error in communication, right? Where how dare you say something wrong or misrepresent something or express yourself, you know, poorly, right? Or have a misunderstanding. That's,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
end of the world
Yeah.
instead of course.
Of course.
Yes.
We all make mistakes. And
Try
yeah.
again, right? Oh, already forgot about it, right?
Yeah.
Let me, let me offer something else, right? Or, it's just this pressure around this idea that, seems to be causing a lot of the, what is anxiety and depression, if not pressure and expectation, right? That's just becomes overwhelming and too heavy for people. So I think if we can remove some of that, right?
And a lot of that goes back to the parents and the teachers. It's not okay to have a child that is just doing okay. Like they're still going to be able to do the majority of the things that they want to do in life.
Yeah.
Every kid is not the valedictorian, and that's all right.
And it's okay.
But social media has made it where you have to have the perfect picture filters. You have to have all the achievements to stand out and be extraordinary.
Right.
And a lot of kids don't want to deal with that, and a lot of adults don't either. But that society expectation, it has to back it up. So then you get the anxiety, the depression, all the things that come along with it.
Yes.
And it's the fear of failure, perfectionism is coming out a lot in people.
And positive self-image isn't there without having all those outside people telling us that it is there. We're not building it ourselves.
Well, we're not framing perfection as unrealistic,
Right.
which it is.
It is.
Always. In every capacity, right? But now that's become the expectation, right? So if perfection is the expectation, then what is failure?
Then what's
Well, failure is the worst thing in the world, rather than a completely necessary, inevitable, objective piece of life.
Right, and learning the process of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
That you should be comfortable with, and not deathly afraid.